Jeff Lascani is next, and he is Director of Business Development and Strategy at Icon Media Direct. He may look young, but he has over a decade of experience in the media world as well, with such hits such as Proactive, OxyClean, Nutrisystem, Hotwire.com, TrueCar.com, and several others. Icon Media specializes in short form, long form, U.S. Hispanic, Canada, plus offers a wide range of digital and print media. So what we're going to do is we are going to pose a question to both Jeff and Vic, and they're each going to come up and have 12 minutes to answer the question. And unfortunately, we are short one person today, so at the end of their presentations, we're going to open it up to the crowd if you have any additional questions for them. So please stick around to the end because it's going to be great. And this is a showdown, boys. So if we disagree, it's okay. It's all in friendly competition. So it's a three-part question, and I will read it. And then Jeff, if you want to come up first, that'd be great. What are some of the challenges in today's marketplace that makes launching a DR campaign more difficult? With these increased challenges, how do you optimize and generate a positive ROI for your client? And then the last part, assuming the client will go to retail, when do you phase out the direct response portion of the media buy, and how will the buy differ from the DR phase to the retail rollout? Fantastic question for anybody looking to put a product on TV. So Jeff, do you want to come up first?
I have a presentation, that's big.
Yep. Do you know? There you go.
How's everybody doing out there? Thank you, Christy, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you guys for attending today. I hope you guys are having a great show. So as Christy mentioned, the first question, what are some of the challenges in today's marketplace that make launching a DR products campaign more difficult in today's marketplace? So first, right off the bat, I thought long and hard about this question because this is a very serious question that we get asked a lot by a lot of marketers today and potential clients. And one of the biggest challenges that we see right now is the improved economic climate. While it increases clients' intent to purchase, one of the things that definitely increases is advertisers' demand on TV media. And one of the things we saw this year was in first half 2013, it was total ad spend on the marketplace was up 3.3%, with cable being up 10.1%. While those might not feel like huge numbers, one of the big impacts it has is on the cable front, where we get a lot of our DRTV media, and that's really what drives a lot of the meat behind our DRTV campaigns. And the first places to go and the first pools of inventory that begin to dry up when you have that increase in demand is the DRTV inventory. We participate in the network upfront, the broadcast network upfronts every year, and for those of you who aren't aware, that's when all the broadcast networks, ABC, CBS, the NBCs of the world, sell upwards of 80% of their inventory for the upcoming year. Typically, those negotiations take place over the time span of about 3 to 4 weeks, just depending on the year. This year, we saw inventory come into the marketplace and dollars come into the marketplace in about a week and a half. So that has really big implications on advertiser demand, not only for the current year, but leading into the next year. And what happens when you see that is there's a pretty significant spillover effect into cable, because when broadcast inventory is tight, it's a very big indicator on the overall marketplace in cable. And it was something that we saw coming into the year, right out of the gate in January this year, where we typically see a favorable inventory environment. Right after that first week of the broadcast week, it really started to tighten up in January, which was something that we haven't seen in many, many years. One of the other things that we saw was this year, DRTV media billings dropped 17.5% in the first quarter of 2013 versus first quarter of 2012. That's a pretty substantial decrease in DRTV spend, and overall cable lost about a third of its DRTV media, as measured by Kantar. Another big challenge in the environment right now is the rigid stance that the FTC is taking against advertisers and enforcing really strict claims and having the proper substantiation behind those claims. One of the things that we're seeing is that disclaiming against typicality. So, for example, we deal with Nutrisystem, and if you have a series of testimonials or B&As that show, Jan lost 100 pounds, Frank lost 90 pounds, and you're creating this net impression that, you're going to lose 100 pounds on this program, that's a misleading net impression. And a lot of weight loss categories, and this really spans across all categories, used to disclaim and just say results not typical. And that's something that the FTC is really taking a hardline stance against, and it's no longer safe harbor against advertisers making those claims. So you really have to be buttoned up with your substantiation, your upfront research, and it's really important to get ahead of that and make sure that everything you're doing is buttoned up from a claims perspective. They also have the substantial assistance doctrine right now, which basically states that anyone along the supply chain in that DRTV campaign funnel, from telemarketers to web vendors, are responsible and do have a bit of liability when it comes to creating those misleading claims. So it's really important that you're working with vendors who understand or are experienced in the marketplace and know how to create that true net impression and create a solid offer that actually makes sense and is clear to the consumer. As a result of this, one of the things that we've been seeing is on the station side, S&P departments, which are the standards and practices departments, have become much more rigid with commercial clearance. So they're sort of enacting as the police for the FTC. And when it comes to clearing commercials, especially in network broadcasts and a lot of the high-profile premier cable networks, you really have to be buttoned up with your claims and the substantiation you have supporting that. So we've seen a lot of that pushback at the station level with getting commercials approved as a result of the FTC coming down as hard as they have. Another challenge that we're seeing right now is the fragmentation in the marketplace. We're sort of at this tipping point where this year, for the first time, digital media, non-voice digital media, surpassed TV viewing, which has never happened in the history of our industry. Right now, adults are spending on average 5 hours a day with non-voice digital versus 4.5 hours with TV. So you have this sort of phenomenon right now where people are multitasking, they're sitting at home, they're on their smartphones and their iPads, they're watching their program, cuts a commercial break, and there's this multitasking engagement environment happening right now. And we actually saw mobile internet surpass desktop and laptop internet use this year. And right now it's at 2 hours and 21 minutes a day in 2013 versus an hour and a half last year. So substantial increase in terms of percentage with the multitasking behavior that we're seeing right now with consumers. Another thing right now is the emergence of online interaction. While that does provide growth opportunities, one of the biggest challenges we're having right now is the reduction in visibility with optimizing our DRTV media campaigns. So you have all these online marketplaces and e-channels where people are going, and it's not about a single channel ROI anymore. You really have to look at the broad scope and understand how the online community is interacting, where these sales are going, and having the proper metrics in place to really track and have that visibility and understand that. And that's where working with true vendors who understand DRTV media and are utilizing technology to stay ahead of that is really important. So part two, do we keep rolling? All right. With these increased challenges, how do we optimize and generate ROI for our client and stay positive? So really one of the keys is working with experienced DRTV agencies and vendors. That's really going to be the key to your initial footprint and success. Media investment, your media dollars are going to be the biggest investment with your campaign as you move into rollout. So it's really important that you're with an agency that has the ability to leverage their buying power, secure adequate inventory at the station and day part level, and are really skilled negotiators and have a proper valuation on what media should be purchased and at what rates. Yeah. Yeah, so ROI, for those of you who aren't aware, return on investment. So for example, if you're spending $1 on media, you want to get $2, $3 back. You want to have a positive ROI because you need to support not only your media expense, but also the additional costs that go into fulfillment, web, vendors, all the different costs of goods along the channel. So positive ROI, really that 2 to 1, 3 to 1 is really what you're shooting for nowadays to have a sustainable long-term rollout campaign. So as I said, skilled negotiation is key. Where the rubber is really going to meet the road is having the right rates in place. You can't just go out there and pay any old rate that the stations are demanding. You have to get in there. You really got to roll up your sleeves and demand the accountability behind your media and pay the rates that are required for your clients to reach that ROI positive territory. Analytics are key. Right now, and always, the fundamentals of direct response and success it's really an art and science behind optimizing media campaigns. Like I said, there's a multi-channel phenomenon right now online, and working with an agency who has the proper, the proper vision and is utilizing technology to really understand multi-channel attribution online and investing in that technology is really what's going to propel growth in the future. It's not a single channel ROI situation anymore where it's the good old days of the 800 number and the landing page. It's really evolved into a very multi-channel and diverse fragmented marketplace, and you have to understand how all those components work together to deliver that bottom line MER, or ROI, return on investment. Lastly, Assuming the client will go to retail, when do you phase out the direct response portion of the media buy, and how will the buy differ from the DR phase to retail rollout? And this is a big question we get. That's really the ultimate goal, is to get from direct response into retail and have that big explosion at the mass level. Right now, typically what we're seeing, and this will vary, a lot of these statistics will vary, but a successful transition from initial DRTV test into rollout is typically 4 to 6 months with a proper DRTV to launch retail. You can anticipate roughly 2 to 5 million in spend. That's about what we're seeing on average with a lot of the big advertisers in the marketplace, the Telebrands, the Ontels, the All-Stars of the world, those as seen on TV strategies, taking that test product into retail is on average what you'll see. So really, as far as the strategy is concerned, once you're at retail, you want to support that sell-through with the 120s and 60s. It's important to subsidize your media with that return on investment, vehicle, those 120s, those 60s that are driving that response and still generating a revenue on the direct response front. Right now, as seen on TV is everywhere, so we're no longer talking about a game of getting into little as seen on TV places in the Walgreens and the CVSs of the world. It truly is an FDMX play right now, which is food, drug, and mass, where as seen on TV is everywhere. The buyers have really adopted the direct response strategy. So that's really the goal. And this 6 to 12 number that will be sold at retail, that can vary widely. Sometimes we see upwards of 100 units sold to 1,000 units sold for every one sold on DRTV, just depending on the category and the nature of the product. When that advertising strategy shifts from those longer creatives and moving into shorter formats like 30s and 15s, is when you have low scan levels at retail. So you really need to stimulate response because you've got a ton of inventory on shelf space at the retailers and your inventory is not moving. That's when you have to get into a reach and frequency game, stimulate impressions, drive awareness. So you'll see that when you're having issues moving inventory off the shelves, or if you have kids products, for example, during holidays, seasonality products where you're moving into a cluttered environment. For example, the hard 8 weeks leading up to Christmas. That's where you're going to see a lot of kids advertisers really come into the marketplace, infiltrate the kids networks, and those 120s and 60s inventory that you've been enjoying all year are no longer there. They dry up. So you really have to get smart and strategic, plan in advance, secure media in advance, and implement shorter lengths to get your voice out there and maintain your share of voice. And again, consumables, another area where you want to stimulate awareness and reach those impressions and maintain that share of market. Typically, lifespan in retail with these as seen on TV strategy products can go anywhere from 6 months to 10 years, depending on the product. You could be in or out, or you could be a longevity and really establish yourself as a brand, like some of the products that we've known, for example, the Pet Egg, products like that have been around and will stay around for quite some time. Another retail strategy, we all remember our friend Billy Mays, probably one of arguably the most successful DRTV to retail launch products and stories in the history of direct response, OxyClean, which we launched back in 2000. It actually started as a long-form show, and they moved into short form with 120s and 60s back in 2000. And what happened was very quickly, we saw a lot of success, a lot of traction. We were seeing, ratios of 2, 3 to 1 in certain areas. And it was a really big hit. We were shipping 6-pound tubs of OxyClean out through the mail. It was quite interesting, but it was an amazing hit right off the bat. And by 2001, we grew the campaign 5-fold. So we saw really substantial growth 1 year after launch into short-form DRTV. And retail sales only 3 years after that reached $200 million. And by 2005, they were the #1 laundry pre-additive product in the category, ahead of products that have been around for decades, like Shout and Spray and Wash. And to this day, OxyClean has 46% market share in stain fighters. And this is a true DRTV birth product that started in true fundamental DRTV and now dominates the retail shelving in the laundry pre-additive category. So again, it's a leader. And even during the recession, because it was a premium price brand, it grew year-over-year market share. And one of the things about OxyClean is they never lost sight of their grassroots fundamental strategy. And despite the fact that they shifted into shorter format lengths as they were in retail and started using those 30s and 15s to drive the reach and frequency and hit TRP weight levels to move the products off the shelving, their creative fundamental strategy never shifted away from a phrase I like to use and our CEO Nancy Lascani coined, demosuasion. They maintain the demonstrability, they maintain the persuasion of the OxyClean product, and they continue to tell that story. They don't go into a clean, pretty creative that looks good and tests well in API testing. They really understand what drives product and what drives consumers, and that's that demonstrability and persuading with the story that gets people to act. So that's really, that's really what it boils down to in a nutshell as far as the DRTV to retail strategy against as seen on TV versus branding products.
Jeff, I have a question. When
Yeah.
you go from the direct response campaign to the retail push, are clients maintaining a break even? Are they losing money once we're pushing retail, knowing that we're making it up at retail? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So you're going to see, as a byproduct of having the explosion of retail, you're going to see your direct response model drop. You're going to see CPOs, ratios, cost per calls. As you start to increase your retail traction and expand your ACV levels, your all commodity volume, your retail penetration, as that begins to expand, your DRTV response is going to fall. And that's why it's very important to have agencies who have the experience in looking at POS data, understanding retail sales, and tying it back to the media accountability. Because at the end of the day, OxyClean still is a direct response product. It just happens to be exploding at retail. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Very, very impressive presentation. So next up from Chief Media, we have Vic Golio. Is your thing on there? And then again, stick around at the end. We're going to open it up to the audience if there's any questions. This is a great opportunity to talk to two of the biggest direct response media agencies. So,
Great. Thank you all for coming. Great job, Jeff. A lot of great information in there. So, direct response. The challenges that we are facing today, as the first question does really pose to us, it is a difficult marketplace when launching a DR product. And media fragmentation, as we already touched on, is a big part of that. When you look at TV users, radio users, now internet, broadband, Wi-Fi, and smartphones, it's really changed the landscape of how you enter and market a product. It's getting harder and harder to make products work directly on TV. We need to find other avenues to supplement your TV buys and provide an ROI as you are trying to market your product. Look at the numbers from 2009 to 2013 of people who now own smartphones. Walk around this floor and you see a number of people clicking away, looking at videos, whatever it may be. Media consumption is changing. So we need to find, as agencies, better ways and more efficient ways to reach that potential consumer. You look at average times, people are either consuming video or things like Pandora, online radio. These are other great ways to try and reach that demographic that you may be looking for when supplementing a DRTV campaign. With limited budgets in DR, testing and proper analysis is really important. It really comes down to taking a look at your product, the category, the dollars being spent in that category when you're looking to go to market. And every product's a little different. Not every product is going to be just for TV. Some are better for radio, some are better for print. You really need to take a look at the competitive landscape and see what's going to be right for that product, because you are going to have limitations when going to market on what that product can sustain by medium. DR to retail. The other problem when launching a DRTV campaign is the consumer thinks, well, next week it's going to be in retail. Why am I going to buy it on TV or online? You really have to be persuasive. You really have to have a product that is a problem solution, that it's going to be a very impulse buy, and they're not going to be thinking down that retail road, because that is a big issue in today's marketplace right now. The economy. While the economy may be showing signs of life over the last 6 months, and we're seeing some more activity in the marketplace from where general advertisers, as Jeff pointed out, are spending, consumers are also becoming very more wary of how they're going to spend their money. So here we have shipping and handling payments. People are getting very, very worried about, okay, buy one, get one. Just pay that extra shipping and handling. Marketers now would really have to think about what type of offers I'm going to go out into the marketplace with. It's not the same old offer, the buy one, get one. They get hit up for all these other charges for shipping and handling. We have to get more creative in the ways that you package these offers and present them to the consumer. As far as funding goes, when you're going to enter the DRTV world, it's not that quick $15,000 test. You need to be well funded. You need to have the capital to really go through the testing process. When you're testing in DRTV, it's not just one offer that you're hoping you go out with, you're going to hit a grand slam. You're going to test multiple variations. And it's not just in TV. You're testing online. You're potentially testing in radio. So you need the capital, you need the funding, because when you have life to a program, you don't want to sell yourself short before being able to figure out what that offer is going to be that you're able to roll out a campaign. And also, you need the right vendors on every level for your campaign. You know, there's great call centers out there. Not everybody's right for every campaign. It all comes down to type of offer, your price point. So really, you have to look at what's going to happen on the back end. It goes for fulfillment, the technology that they supply, continuity opportunities. So there's a lot to look at when launching a DRTV campaign. It's not, as was noted earlier, you know, call now 1-800. You know, there's a lot of other elements that you really need to look at, and the back end is obviously a very important place to start. You know, with the increased challenges, you know, how do we optimize and generate a positive ROI for your client? You know, as mentioning earlier, you know, it's really about outside of our own media history and the data that we've compiled over the years. It's really using research and all the databases out there to try and make better educated decisions. You know, there's things like MRI data, Kantar data. When you compile that against your own media history, you can come up with a plan that you're taking a lot of the guesswork out of what's going to happen before you air for your client. You know, combo deals, you know, TV and online campaigns. Online is a critical component of any DRTV campaign right now. Whether you're buying on a low remnant cost per click, display, SEO marketing, it all adds in to what's going to happen to the overall ROI. As far as testing goes, you know, we really need, as I said earlier, with the fragmentation that we're seeing in the marketplace, you have to test other platforms. You know, the Hulus of the world, Pandora, Facebook, whatever it may be, alongside traditional DRTV. It's going to help the bottom line ROI at the end of the day as TV campaigns get harder and harder to maintain. And then it comes down also to technology. You know, being able to track what is happening both on the DRTV side, and then we'll get to retail, and what's happening online is a big issue these days. You know, it used to be nice back in the day. You'd be running on 20 networks. You would know exactly what stations are driving your calls and orders and get this nice lump sum of money from your website. Well, that's when only 20-25% of your orders were coming through online medium. Now it's over 50% on average. So without having access to seeing how you're going to tie that back, you're not seeing the full picture. You're not able to optimize as efficiently as you go along. You know, when we look at reporting, we want to tie in both TV and online to make the best educated decisions that we can as we go along. You can look by station level. You can get down to the actual airings. You have all your telemarketing information. You have all your online information, what's happening on your website, and how do we then optimize media more efficiently for our clients to make better decisions. Assuming the client will go to retail, when do we phase out the direct response portion of the media buy, and how will that buy differ from the DR phase to retail rollout? Well, it really comes down to distribution. You could be running a fantastic direct response campaign, and as noted earlier, once you start getting in 10, 20, 30,000 doors, it's going to have a direct effect on your overall MER. You are going to see a drop in those numbers as your retail distribution go up. But you have to be able to track that retail play also, so you're not looking at everything in one silo. You're looking at it as a combo deal on how you're really subsidizing your media spend. Until the appropriate distribution is achieved, and it's going to really vary by product. Some products with a $9.99 price point versus a $150 price point may not need the same distribution to warrant the media spend that you're going to need to drive in-store sales. But it's also, as that campaign goes along, it's not just shifting immediately from a true DRTV to 30s, 10s, 15s to drive retail, but more of a hybrid campaign until really the numbers dictate that you kill the DR portion and go to a full retail play. Retail media is also a lot different than direct response media. When we're buying direct response media, it's not the size of the network that matters, it's the ROI payout that we're achieving for the dollars being spent. When we go into the retail world, when you're in mass distribution, it is about buying those mass networks against the demographic that you're trying to reach. Those are not the networks that we're buying for 120s and 60s and true DR in a lot of cases, because they just don't provide those efficiencies, but they certainly provide it for a retail play. very important, as I mentioned earlier, cross-reference historical media, your competitive spends, the station profiles, use MRI. Every product's a little different, and the media spend that you need to drive retail is going to vary by category also. As we go into diet season, for example, Hydroxycut, we know we have to jump up our spends to certain levels to keep that as America's #1 weight loss product to date because of the competition in first quarter. I know in second quarter, I can probably back off that spend, still achieving and maintaining the retail sales that I need to achieve. When tracking retail data, it's really no different than what we do in direct response. I want to be able to project and look at lifts based on spend when I'm looking at my TV media spend, when I'm looking at the DRTV media spend, what that's going to have an effect on units by week, needing to coordinate really with the retail application on, are there rollbacks, are there end caps that we need to know about in a specific retail chain, and that's going to affect how we decide what type of media and how much media